After the divorce and the near simultaneous bankruptcy, all I had left was a cheap restart. And it came in the form of an old house, forgotten by God and by the neighbors, at the end of a gravel road called Hickory Lane. The price was absurdly low, and now I know why. The realtor told me the previous family had left suddenly, leaving everything behind. That was odd, of course. Who abandons furniture, appliances, even family photos? But at the time, my only focus was rebuilding what life had torn apart. I was tired of sleeping on friends' couches, of living off the scraps of what used to be my stability. The first day I walked in, the smell of mold was overwhelming. Peeling paint, torn curtains, children's toys scattered in the backyard. The fridge still held expired food. But what disturbed me most was the silence, that a heavy, suffocating silence. Thick with memories the house seemed unwilling to forget. On the second night, I woke up to a strange sound. Something like dragging footsteps. I figured it was an animal, maybe a raccoon in the attic. I grabbed a flashlight and started searching, but that's when I heard it. A sob. Muffled crying. It came from the last room down the hallway. When I opened the door, a chill ran up my spine. The room was small, almost like a converted storage space. No bed, just an old quilt spread out on the wooden floor. And there, curled up like a wounded animal, was a boy. Thin, dirty, hair stuck to his forehead, eyes wide and terrified. Couldn't have been more than 8 years old that he didn't scream, didn't run. He just looked at me, like someone silently begging to be rescued. "My name is Noah," I said softly. "Are you hurt?" "Nothing, just his quickened breathing." "Are you here alone?" He hesitated, then nodded. I stood there, stunned, trying to understand. How could someone leave a child locked away? Alone? On the wall, scribbled in red crayon, were broken phrases. "I promise I'll be good. Please don't leave me here." I didn't know it then, but that boy carried a story the world tried to bury. And that quiet, crumbling house was the only place left that still remembered the truth. I took the boy to the kitchen, offered him water and something to eat. He devoured a pack of stale crackers like it was the best meal of his life. Still hadn't spoken a word. "What's your name?" I asked gently. He hesitated, as if calculating the risk of answering. "Eli." A short name, but it carried weight. "Eli, where are your parents?" His eyes filled with tears. But again, he just shook his head, either saying "I don't know," or maybe "I don't want to remember." Over the next few days, I realized he wasn't some intruder. He lived there. He had clothes in drawers, drawings taped to the walls, toys scattered in the basement. The question changed from who is he to why was he left behind? I started digging. The town library. I found an old article. Couple adopts orphan boy after tragedy involving unknown family. The names, Claire and Brian Matthews. The boy, Eli, with the same frightened face, now sleeping under my roof. Strangely, there was no record of the biological parents. No names. No official cause of the supposed tragedy. Eli began speaking in fragments. Short phrases. Bits of memory that didn't quite fit. "Mommy used to scream at night. He locked the door and threw the key away. They said I was a fair trade." That last sentence haunted me. A fair trade? What did that even mean? One night, after Eli had fallen asleep on the couch, I went into his old room. Something felt off beneath my feet. One of the wooden floorboards was loose. I carefully lifted it, and what I found underneath stopped me cold. A child's backpack. And inside, a small metal box. I opened it. Cash. A lot of it. Old bills, crisp and well-preserved. And underneath them, a man's wedding ring, engraved on the inside with the initials JD. That was the moment the truth began to creep through the cracks. Eli wasn't just an abandoned boy. He was the tip of something dark. A filthy secret buried beneath the floorboards of a house that never forgot what it had witnessed. The little metal box full of cash kept me up all night. That I couldn't stop turning over the possibilities. Why would a child hide thousands of dollars? Where did it come from? And more importantly, what else was this house still hiding? The next morning, I decided not to say anything to Eli. He was already far too scared. But the box stayed in my mind like a muffled scream. Something was deeply wrong with this story, and I had barely scratched the surface. The following day, I noticed Eli quietly drawing at the kitchen table. I approached slowly, curious. It was a stick figure. A man with a dark expression, holding a key. Beside him, a boy locked inside a dark room, surrounded by words scribbled in red letters. No noise. Don't tell anyone. It's your fault. Who is this man, Eli? I asked, sitting carefully beside him. He hesitated. Bit his lip. The pencil trembled in his hand. He said if I talked, he'd send me away. Forever. Silence. Then, after a moment, he added, Mommy said we had to pretend. That it was just until they got everything. I froze. Got everything what? Eli looked away. A chill ran down my spine. I started to suspect that adoption had never been about love, never about giving a home. It was about something far darker, something that involved silence, threats, and maybe even death. I returned to the loose floorboard, examined the inside of the opening more closely. Etched into the wood was a carving, J+M forever, possibly the names of Eli's real parents. That drove me to search the house more thoroughly. In the attic, I found an old box stacked beneath piles of dust and forgotten junk. Inside, old utility bills, crayon drawings, and tucked between them, a birth certificate. Eli Donovan. Born in Chicago. Parents, Joshua Donovan and Meredith Donovan. Those were not the people who had adopted him. I went back to the newspaper archive, searched for Joshua Donovan, and there it was. A small police brief, 6 years old. Couple goes missing after alleged car accident. 3-year-old. Son survives, but vanishes before emergency responders arrive. The car had been burned. No bodies were recovered. The investigation was closed without answers. My heart pounded in my chest. Claire and Brian hadn't adopted Eli. They had kidnapped him, and I was living in the invisible tomb of a crime no one ever dared to solve. Asterisk, asterisk, that birth certificate wasn't just a document. It was a scream, a cry for help buried for years beneath layers of silence and dust. Noah Donovan, son of Joshua and Meredith Donovan, and now a child belonging to no one. I knew I needed proof. This wasn't just about justice. It was about protecting Eli and making sure the monsters who broke him never came back to finish the job. I returned to the box of documents, sifted through every scrap, and at the bottom, tucked between the folds of an old recipe book, I found something that froze me to the bone. A photograph, yellowed with age. It showed Joshua and Meredith, young, smiling. The same wedding ring from the metal box gleamed on Joshua's left hand. But that wasn't what made my skin crawl. In the background, slightly out of focus, were Claire and Brian, watching, like shadows as if they had already been there before the tragedy, as if they were never strangers at all. On the back of the photo, in firm, feminine handwriting, was a note. Sunday at the park. They were kind, said they wanted to help. The date? Just 3 weeks before the accident. My blood boiled. That was no coincidence. Claire and Brian knew exactly who Joshua and Meredith were. They didn't stumble upon them. They moved in, carefully, calculatedly, faked a friendship, and then everything vanished. The parents, the story, the child. That couple didn't adopt anyone. They murdered, and kept the only witness. The son. Eli was sitting in the living room when I walked in holding the photo. He saw it and froze. They said if I ever told, they'd do to me what they did to Mommy and Daddy. I knelt in front of him. Do you remember what happened, Eli? He nodded, eyes glossy with tears. We were leaving. My parents said we were moving away, that those friends weren't really friends. But that night, the friends came first. Tears streamed down his cheeks. I saw the car explode. I was hiding in the bushes, waiting for Daddy to come back. Claire found me, said she'd take care of me, but she locked me up, told me nobody wanted me. My stomach twisted, she said. I belong to them now, because no one else would come looking. The pieces clicked together with a cruel snap. Claire and Brian hadn't just taken Eli. They had murdered his parents, fabricated a story, and when Eli was no longer useful, they discarded him. But fate, as it often does, forgot to bury him completely. 2 days after Eli's confession, the visit came. They knocked hard, 3 sharp chimes of the doorbell, like someone determined to be let in. And when I opened it, I didn't need to ask who they were. Claire and Brian. They had lived only in Eli's words, in dusty records, in the haunted stairs from old photographs. But now they stood there, flesh and bone, and a chill so cold it seeped through the threshold. Claire smiled, a thin line of polite venom. You must be the new owner. I am. We came to collect a few things we left behind. Heard the house was sold earlier than expected, some mix-up in the paperwork. Lies. The sale was public, documented, legal. This wasn't about belongings. It was about something they thought they had lost and now realized they hadn't. But strangely, they didn't ask about Eli. We're not here to cause trouble, Claire continued. We just want one last look in the basement, maybe the attic. We had a hidden safe. Funny. I thought you left in a hurry. Times were complicated, she said, her eyes still fixed on mine. We had a son, but he disappeared. Never found him. My blood boiled. That's not what he told me. Silence fell. Heavy. Dangerous. Brian lowered his eyes. Claire's smile didn't move, like a predator too proud to blink. He's a child. Imaginative. Confused. You really shouldn't believe everything he says. He remembers the explosion, the car, and the promise you made after taking everything from him. Her mask cracked. You don't know what you're talking about. Then enlighten me. Why were there $100,000 hidden under the floor? Why are there forged papers naming you as the legal guardian of a missing child? Why is there a birth certificate in the attic with the names of his real parents? I stepped closer, because from where I stand, this smells like murder. Claire didn't answer. She just stepped forward. You think you're going to fix this on your own? This won't end well for you. Brian grabbed her arm. Enough, Claire. Shut up, Brian. That's when Eli appeared, quiet in the hallway. He saw them and froze. Claire turned to him with that sickening sweetness she had mastered like poisoned. Sweetheart, you know Mommy always loved you, don't you? Eli didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't run. He just said, steady and clear, you left me to die. Claire turned white. We thought you were all ready. She couldn't finish the sentence that I slammed the door in their faces, but I knew. This wasn't over. They knew about the money, and now they knew. The boy they once tried to bury wasn't alone anymore. After Claire and Brian's visit, I began locking up the house, every door, every window. Even the back gate got a new padlock. But fear doesn't lock away that easily. Eli began to regress. The nightmares returned. His appetite faded. He started whispering the same haunting phrases I thought we'd already buried. They always come back. That night, I had the strange feeling I was being watched. I looked out the bedroom window and saw a dark car parked across the street. Engine off, headlights off. The same car showed up the next day, parked 2 blocks down. By the third time, I had no doubts. They were waiting for the right moment. That's when I made a decision. I took Eli out of the house and brought him to my sister's place in another town for a few days. But before leaving, I went to the police. I brought everything: the birth certificate, the photo, the journals, the box of money, and Eli's testimony. Recorded with his permission, the detective listened in silence. He examined every piece of evidence and finally said, if all of this is true, you didn't just save a child. You uncovered a murder. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified that I returned home that same day. I needed to finish organizing the evidence for the district attorney. But the moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. The back door had been forced open, and in the middle of the living room stood Claire, holding a kitchen knife. Brian stood behind her, clearly nervous, drenched in sweat. Where is he? She spat. Safe. And far away from you. You don't get it. That money is ours. It was supposed to be easy. He wasn't supposed to survive. She stepped closer. You ruined everything. You murdered 2 innocent people, kidnapped a child, and when he was no longer useful, you left him to starve. And now you want the money as a reward. Claire smiled. A twisted, sick smile. You don't understand. They stole from us first. Joshua was Brian's business partner. He embezzled money and promised to share. But he never did. He thought he could play games with us. So we decided to end it. The boy was just collateral. Brian lowered his head, as if the truth crushed him down. Claire, stop. That's enough. You've always been weak. She turned the knife toward him, and in that moment, I ran to the drawer and triggered the house alarm, blaring sirens. Lights turning on in every house. Dogs barking. She froze. Brian bolted, and within seconds, patrol cars were speeding down the street. Claire was arrested on the spot, still screaming that it was the system's fault, Joshua's fault, my fault, the world's fault. Brian didn't hold up. He confessed everything. The scheme, the murder of the couple, the fake adoption, the abandonment. The attempt to recover the $100,000 and Eli? Eli watched everything from a safe distance, his eyes still wide, but no longer afraid. Noah Bennett, the man who just wanted a fresh start, had become something Eli had never known before: a protector, a home, a real chance. The trial of Claire and Brian Matthews was broadcast nationwide. The entire country was stunned to discover that a couple once considered exemplary were, in fact, the cold faces behind a premeditated crime: double homicide, kidnapping, child abandonment, document fraud, obstruction of justice. The list seemed endless. The evidence was overwhelming. The hidden money, the birth certificate, Brian's handwritten confession, the recorded testimony of Eli, who, with the help of a forensic psychologist, was able to describe in detail the events he had endured since the age of 3. The prosecutor was blunt. This boy survived the worst kind of evil, the one that wears the mask of kindness. Claire was sentenced to life in prison. Brian, having cooperated with the investigation, received 30 years in a maximum security facility, with no chance of sentence reduction for the first 15. Eli did not attend the trial. He watched everything from home, with my sister and me by his side. During the sentencing, he held one of his old drawings, the one of the key, the man, and the child locked away. But now, he had completed the image. The child was outside the room, running. 3.2 months later, I received the news. The judge had approved my petition for full and permanent custody of Eli. It was the quietest, most beautiful day of my life. But what to do with the $100,000? It wasn't mine. It wasn't theirs. It was the blood-stained remains of a past that needed redemption. So, with legal guidance, we opened an investment fund in Eli's name. The money could only be accessed by him once he turned 21, to use for college, a home, dreams, or whatever he chose to build his future with. Why didn't you use the money now? He once asked me, curiously. Because that money is a part of your story. It was stolen, tainted, marked by pain. But now, it's the seed of your future. And when the time comes, it'll be clean. Because you turned it into something good. Eli cried, not from fear, but for the first time, from relief. Today, he's 12 years old. He sleeps peacefully, goes to school, learned to ride a skateboard, loves pepperoni pizza, and plays the keyboard better than I've ever played any instrument in my life. But the most beautiful thing is seeing him smile, a full smile. Teeth showing, eyes steady, the smile of someone who no longer belongs in the closet, the smile of someone who was remembered, who was loved, who survived. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments which part moved you the most. Do you believe a second chance can change someone's destiny? Like this video so more people can hear Eli's story. Share it with someone who needs to restore their faith in humanity. And subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful, and life-changing stories.